How often should you back up your website? A question that I get asked a lot, and there isn't a hard and fast answer. However, what I've done is I've gone ahead and spoken to a bunch of successful website owners who have e-commerce sites, blog sites, basically anything you can think of, to devise a set of guidelines that will give you an idea of exactly how frequently you should back up your website. And this can range from anything from twice a year to once an hour. So let's work out what kind of website you are, and as a result, how often you should be backing up. Your first thing to consider is what kind of transactions go on your site. Now, some sites have no transactions. Some sites, such as busy e-commerce sites, might be processing several transactions an hour. You have the same thing with, for example, membership sites. Maybe people are signing up and you've got several memberships coming through every single hour. So have a look at your website and what kind of transactions are going on there. Do you have user submitted data such as reviews and things like that? Do you need to make sure that that is all backed up, and how often that they come through your site? If you're getting 5-6 reviews every single hour and you can't really afford to lose those, well, then you need to start thinking about more regular backups. So all of those examples I've given, an e-commerce store taking many transactions through an hour, something like a membership site taking several memberships over the course of an hour, well, you probably want hourly backups. And of course, you don't want to be doing that yourself, so you want to be able to set scheduled backups. I do have a full video on how to do that, and I will link that at the end. But essentially, if you want to check out Duplicator Pro, which is exactly how I do it, I'm going to leave some links down in the top pinned comment and in the description where you can pick it up, and then go ahead and set your scheduled backups for every single hour if that's what you need. However, you could be an e-commerce store that makes 1 or 2 transactions in a day. So maybe a daily backup is acceptable. Just have to consider what transactions and how many of them, and that's going to be your first starting point for identifying how often you should back up. Outside of transactions, we need to talk about how often your site actually changes. If you're somebody that never changes your site and you don't have many transactions going through, you might only need a backup every few months. It really could be that rare if it's only very irregular updates to maybe an About Us section or something along those lines. However, if you're constantly adding custom code or modifying and amending things on your site, then you're going to need more regular backups. People could be doing that on a weekly basis. You could get a couple of changes every week on some busier sites, in which case, look for that weekly backup. And then you can start to combine the two things together. What transactions do we have? How often are we changing our website? If the answer is not very many transactions or none, but we're changing the website in some way twice a week, maybe adding or removing plugins, then weekly is looking like a good backup for you. However, if you're making those changes weekly, but you're also taking many transactions through a day, you probably want to be in the hourly or daily option. So start combining all of these things together. Aside from your site changing, how often does your content change? Do you have users who are submitting content to your website that's going up? Are you posting blog posts daily or multiple times a day? These are all things that you don't want to use. If you're posting a blog post every single day, well then back up every single day. And if you are a blog that doesn't have any transactions, then that starts to lead down the road of, okay, I'm on a daily backup. But if you have a blog and you've got multiple transactions and you rarely change your website, then you're trying to work out on what the highest frequency is. What is the highest frequency change that you need to back up? However, all of this doesn't really matter unless we consider the last point. what we need to consider is your tolerance for data loss. We spoke about blog posts there. Are you okay with losing 1 day's blog posts, 2 days, 3 days, a week? What are you willing to lose without having a backup for it? If you have your blog posts stored elsewhere, maybe a day isn't too bad. So you can have a couple of days where you don't back up. However, if you're an e-commerce store and you're making several transactions an hour, there is potential for you to lose thousands of dollars worth of money, worth of revenue, by simply not having hourly backups. And that's probably not something that you're willing to tolerate. So this is probably the starting point. The thing you need to consider first, what is your tolerance for loss? If you lost everything you'd done over a day, would that be acceptable? 2 days, 3 days, a week, a month? What is your tolerance for loss? Once you know that, you're gonna have a great understanding of exactly how often you need to back up. And as I say, what you want to do, particularly if you're backing up very frequently, is schedule those backups. You don't want to have to do it manually. You imagine having to go onto your WordPress site and then do a manual hourly backup. It seems like a waste of time, and you're definitely going to forget. So to do a scheduled backup, click on that video right there.